going on, everyone? What is going on with Rui Hachimura? It's a question that I have seen a lot lately. I've gotten a lot of comments about people saying, like, what's going on with Rui? Why isn't he as good? Just all of the stuff that goes into, like, hey, he hasn't had a great stretch. Something must be wrong. Now, when we first got Rui Hachimura, he was looking great, right? Granted, he was kind of the only wing we had, right? Outside of LeBron. So he had a lot more opportunity. He was kind of fresh, wet behind the ears. He wasn't being as aggressive as, we would have liked, but that's usually how it goes when a guy first comes to a roster. A little more passive. They're a little more like, hey, let me kind of fade in a little bit. But he still brought size. He still brought toughness. A guy that could play both forward spots. That was absolutely huge. And then fast forward, and the Lakers end up making all the trades that they make. And they go get a guy like Jarred Vanderbilt, who is better suited guarding the three. Rui Hachimura, he is a bulky, sizable forward, right? So he is best suited as like a defensive style four rather than a three, because he doesn't have the lateral quickness that like a Jarred Vanderbilt has. Like, usually you see two types of forwards. You see like the Tobias Harris, the Aaron Gordons, the guys that are bulky size, they usually play the four. But then you see like the, Mikal Bridges, guys like that, guys like that, Miles Bridges got this sort of long, lengthier style forwards that can come in and kind of play that defensive three, right? Those are usually the two types of forwards, those 6'8", 6'9", either long and lengthy, play the three, bulky, stocky, you play the four. And that's kind of where Rui fits in. But the Lakers have asked him to play a lot of three this year. Now without LeBron, he's starting to play a little more four, which is nice, which makes sense. And they're kind of using, Troy Brown, who has really stepped up a lot lately, as their kind of three. And so Rui's kind of developed into this other type of role. But here's the thing. This year, Rui is still giving the Lakers solid production, right? So he's played in 17 games. He's averaged about 24 minutes per game, and he started 8 of those games. In that time, he's giving us just under 10 points per game. He's giving us 5 rebounds per game. So he's given us solid rebounding. He's actually been pretty good defensively, giving us just under 10 points per game. That is huge, right? Like, that is a very solid contributor. But the problem is that we're not utilizing him in a way for him to be effective. Right? Rui Hachimura is a very simple basketball player. He is a mid-range assassin. He is best operating in that mid-range. He is a guy that if you run plays for him, he can be effective. Right now, he's giving you 8 to 10 points per game on just scraps. He's giving it to you on spot-up threes, which he's not a three-point shooter. He never has been. His best season, he had a stretch of games with Washington, 42 games, and he started 13 of them, where he shot 44.7%. He shot just under 48%. 45%, right? But it was very limited. He was shooting 3 attempts per game and was giving you 1.3. Outside of that, the guy is like a 32% three-point shooter. He has a career average of 35%. This year, he's shooting 27% because they're putting him in a position to just jack up and try to be a volume three-point shooter. And that's not his game. That's not who he is. He's averaging about 2.5 attempts per game from the three-point range, but he's a mid-range guy. Yes, he can knock down the three ball from time to time, but when you're running him in sets, you need to get him and use him to his benefit. What is he best at? That mid-range. Taking that step or two, you give him the ball, let him get position, give him the ball, and let him go to work. Also, I really want you to do this. If you're somebody that thinks that Rui Hachimura has been struggling and hasn't really been doing what you'd like him to do, go watch some of the previous games and watch the games going forward. My hope is that D'Angelo Russell fixes this problem. But there are several times a game where Rui Hachimura has clear establishment at his spot of attack, and they just overlook him. In the Warriors game, There were 3 moments I vividly remember, and he got the ball once. There was one where he had the ball, where he got the ball against Steph, where he had positioning and Steph ends up fouling him. He had another one where he had Klay Thompson in a mismatch, and instead of going to him and allowing him to abuse that and go to work, they completely looked him off. And by they, I mean Dennis Schroeder completely looked him off and ended up establishing Anthony Davis instead, which you already had a play earlier and clear advantage in position, right? And then there was another point with, I believe, DiVincenzo, where they had a switch and Rui didn't have position, but he had DiVincenzo on him, where the right move would have been to swing it back around to Rui and let him go one-on-one with DiVincenzo, where he's probably going to win that mismatch. That happens regularly throughout the course of games, where he ends up getting a mismatch or he establishes post position and they just don't give him the ball. How is he supposed to be effective on the offensive end when you're having moments like that and his strength is post presence in that mid-range, right? That is where he's best at. Now, most of his points are coming off of just rebounds and putbacks or being aggressive and trying to get to the hoop. Like a lot of people say, oh, he's not aggressive. Like most of his points are coming from the free throw line because he's being aggressive, right? So like all these things are reasons why he is not getting what he wants. And I think part of that is just not putting him in position from a coaching standpoint. I think some of that is your point guard not doing the job that he's supposed to be doing and recognizing those mismatches, recognizing those opportunities, recognizing the players that you have on the floor, which I'm hoping again that D'Angelo Russell is able to recognize that and fix that to where Rui can be more effective. We saw before this trade happened, Rui Hachimura was giving us, 13, 14, 15, 17 points a game. He was really good for us. But now we got all this other depth, all this other talent, and Rui's kind of became this afterthought. He's kind of became this back burner. And instead, we should be kind of using him because Vanderbilt's great, but he's not really a scorer. He's more of that hustle player, get you hustle points. Where Rui's a guy that can he can just go get you a bucket. And especially those moments where we're just stagnant and we're not really getting a bucket, it would be nice to run someplace for Rui. Also, because Rui is only getting so many shot attempts per game, he kind of forces them at times. He's only getting 5 attempts per game. How are you supposed to be an effective offensive player when you get 5 attempts per game? And he's still giving us 10 points. So that means he's giving us basically a bucket per attempt, right? Like the guy, I don't know what else you're supposed to do when you're only getting so many 2-point attempts per game. Like that becomes a real problem. That becomes a real outlier, right? When you're getting just a handful of shots per game and the other ones are just, threes at the end of a shot clock or on a broken play or whatever. He's getting 8 attempts per game, but I'm talking about like in his range where he's at, he's only getting 5 attempts. And in those 5 attempts, he's making 3.5 of them. So he's making, 50%, 45% from those 2-point assignments. He's shooting 49.5%. So he's shooting 50%. That is good. That is really good. Why aren't we getting him more opportunities? Why aren't we putting him in a position to get more points? I don't understand. That's where it bothers me, right? That's why I say, he's not being put in a position to have success. And people want him to have success. People want him to be this just offensive juggernaut, but he's only getting 8 attempts total, 3 of which are 3-pointers, which he's not a 3-point shooter. And then the other 5 are 2-point attempts, which he's shooting 50% from the field from. 49.5% if you want to be specific, right? And then he's getting 3 free throw attempts per game, 2.5 free throw attempts per game, which again shows that he's being aggressive in limited time, in limited minutes. So this whole idea of like, he's not being aggressive, he's not being effective, his numbers prove otherwise. He's giving you 10 points per game on 8 shots. And he's shooting 50% from the floor. That's efficient. That is effective. Like, I don't know how much more efficient and effective you could be. Like, literally. But it looks bad because, again, a lot of it is in junks. They're not running sets. They're not running plays. They're not calling his number and putting him in a position. I'm telling you, if you give this guy actual plays and actual opportunity to run proper sets, I 100% believe that this guy is a 15 to 20 point per game guy. I really do. Again, he's giving you 10 points per game on just scraps, on just random plays here and there. Imagine what he could do if he was actually a semi-focal point. I'm not saying you have to give him 20 shots per game, but can we run, if you're going to give him 8 to 10 shots per game, can we run plays to give him quality looks to where he can be more efficient? You know, instead of that 3 attempts per game from 3, can we get it to like 1 or 2 to where it's just like, it's just in the moment. He's just wide open. So take the shot, right? Something like that. But get him 8 to 9 looks per game where he actually is in a position to where he's getting good quality shots. That guy's going to knock down probably 6 of those 8 on any given night. Sure, he's going to have a game where maybe he knocks down 3 of it, but I think more times than not, if you actually put him in position, he's going to give you six buckets, and then he's still going to give you, the 2 or 3 free throws, right? And then if he knocks down that 1-3 here and there, there's 18 points. And there you go. There's your 15 to 18 point a game from Rui. That's the problem that we're having right now with Rui Hachimura. He is a very simplistic basketball player. You know exactly what his strengths are. You know exactly what his weaknesses are. Yet we're not utilizing his strengths. And instead, we're almost using his weaknesses and trying to use them as strengths, and it's making him look unproductive. But he's not. I mean, his numbers show otherwise. And the time that he's playing, he's just not the guy that people expected him to be because he's not in a position to be that. I mean, even the Washington Wizards were running plays for him. The one game that Washington actually ran full sets for, Rui Hachimura scored 30 points in that game. Like, they called his number, ran entire sets for him, and he gave them, and he answered and responded with 30 points. I'm not saying that he has to give us 30 points a game. I'm not saying that you have to give him, 15, 20 shots a game. But if you want him to be productive, you have to put him in a position to give him production. It's the only way he's going to be productive. Right now, if you keep operating him as just like a hard-nosed hustle type player, then this is the type of Rui Hachimura you're going to get, which is what he is right now. Where I would rather see them run a couple sets a game where he just gets some nice mid-range looks. Especially with the bench unit. Who's going to stop him and slow him down that are on bench units of other teams? Nobody. Allow him to establish his position, feed him the ball, let him go to work. And I'm really, really hoping that D'Angelo Russell will be able to do that. I'm really hoping that D'Lo will be in a position to where he can better utilize Rui Hachimura. Because a lot of that has to go into the point guard. Again, there were 3 moments in that game where Dennis Schroeder failed to recognize the mismatch and just went completely the other way. Right? Like, that is something you need, that as a point guard, you gotta do. But that also is why Dennis Schroeder is not a starting level point guard. I think D'Lo is. And I think D'Lo's going to recognize some of those mismatches. So I wouldn't be shocked if, as we progress going forward, D'Angelo Russell, when he starts playing again, and times that D'Lo and Rui is on the court together, I bet you Rui is a lot better. It's something for you to look out for. Watch, I'm telling you. Go, as we get forward, when D'Lo comes back, whether it's the Memphis game or whatever going forward, watch Rui start having better games. Watch Rui start being more effective because D'Lo, I believe, is going to put him in a position to have more success. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below.